In this video, I'm going to be covering 5 different ways to make your beats more interesting. But before I get into that, I do have a couple things to tell you about. If you're a producer and you make loop packs or drum kits and you'd like me to use them in one of my tutorial videos, all my social media links will be in the description of this video. I have several high quality loop packs available. They're $10 each, 11 different loops in each pack. Finally, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn on the notifications. That way you guys can see when I'm dropping videos. So I'm going to go ahead and get into what I have for you this week. Like I said, I have 5 different ways to make your beats a little more interesting. Alright, let's start out with the hi-hat, which is the first way to make your beats a little more interesting and give it a little bounce. So the first thing you can do with your hi-hats is put in a couple rolls to make it a little more interesting. The second thing you can do to make it a little more interesting is add some of the lower notes to give it a little more bounce. Finally, if you go down to Control and select Note Pan, you can pan your hi-hats different ways. When I pan my hi-hats, I like to pan the rolls and bounce them from the left and right speaker. And it definitely makes things a lot more interesting. Sometimes you wouldn't necessarily catch it if you're listening to the beat altogether. But if you were to solo the hi-hats and listen to them by themselves, you could definitely tell the difference, which I'll go ahead and do here just in a second. Alright, so this is what the hi-hats sound like by themselves. So like I said, it definitely makes things a lot more interesting. Moving on to the second way to make your beats a little more interesting, it's the hi-hat. What I like to do sometimes is I'll take the hi-hat and move it up and down notes, so that way it's not just the same thing over and over again. And I'll show you what I mean. You wouldn't really think that adds a lot, but it definitely adds a little variation in the beat. Adding on to that, I do like to add multiple hi-hats in. Sometimes I'll add in reverse hi-hats. This is what the normal hi-hat and the reverse hi-hat sound like together. The next way to make your beats a little more interesting is to add perks. And no, I'm not talking about the pills. Alright, so with the closed hi-hat, both open hi-hats, and both perks, this is what it sounds like all together. So as you can tell without hearing the rest of the beat, the closed hi-hat, both open hi-hats, and both perks have already created a bounce and complement the other drums as well as the melody. Alright, the fourth tip that I have for you to make your beats a little more interesting is to add risers or cymbals. This will let people know when a section is getting ready to end or begin. Also helps bring in the drop too as well. This is an example of what I'm talking about.
jcmentalz.
Alright, so as you can tell for the intro, this riser will bring in the hook, and then I have a second one over here for the end of the verse, and then duplicate it again, and then I also have another for the bridge coming out of the verse and then back into the outro. That's a great way to let people know something's getting ready to happen in your beats. Final tip I have for you to make your beats a little more interesting is your arrangement. This is probably one of the biggest ways to make your beats a little more interesting, is to have things falling in and out, as well as adding and taking away melodic elements too. So just to give you a quick example, for the hook, which is the section here, I have all the instruments in as well as all the melodic instruments. Then I come into the verse where a lot of the melodic instruments drop out, as well as a good bit of the drums too. For the second part of the verse, a couple more of the melodic instruments come in. I take out the kick drum for a moment, and then once again, leaving the verse into the hook, there's the riser, and the drums fall out too as well, which lets you know something is going to happen. So I hope you enjoyed everything. If you have any questions or suggestions, make sure you hit me up in the comments. If you like the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn on the notifications. That way you guys can see when I'm dropping videos. I appreciate everyone watching and supporting me, and if you don't know what it is, you should definitely find out. It's jcmentalz. Peace until next time.